Hello, friends. Welcome to Banking Frontiers. My name is Manoj Agrawal. Today, I'm hosting an interesting panel discussion on a very important topic, real-time payments, which is actually becoming a bigger and bigger subject as we go along, pushed, no doubt, by COVID. But anyway, it was supposed to gain traction. That is the beauty and excitement about this whole technology and this business case around it. One thing is clear, payments is not a space where banks or any organization can wait and watch, get some clarity and then move. So I'd liken it to say this is more like a mountainous space rather than a beach. In a beach, you have very clear visibility for far distances, but in a mountain, you have to move actually up and down. So in payment space, you have to be on your feet, I guess. And the early movers definitely have some advantages, if not a lot of advantages. So that's why this topic is very interesting for timely discussion. May I request our panelists to briefly give an introduction about themselves and their role in their organization.
Hi, my name is Reshma Jatani. Currently, I'm working with MobiKwik as head of banking alliances and partnerships. Total 18 years of experience, majorly with fintechs. I was with BillDesk for 7.5 years, worked with Atom, and then I was working with merchant community, which was more of a receiving part in terms of the aggregator services. I was with BookMyShow for some 5.5 years. Then now I am again back to fintech, where the payments are is the core business, and we feel that exhilaration all the time in payments and digital payments. So that's about me.
That's great. Thank you, Reshma. Glad to see the breadth of experience that you have.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Soumya Patnaik, and I'm a Principal Product Manager for Real-Time Payments at ACI Worldwide. At ACI, I drive the solution strategy and go-to-market for our real-time payments initiatives globally. And my role is to support the customer-facing teams in anything around real-time. So yeah, this is about me, and glad to be a part of this panel and looking forward to the discussion.
Yes, thank you, Soumya, for that introduction.
Okay, hi. First of all, thank you for inviting me. My name is Prasad Rautra. I'm part of Airtel Payments Bank. This is the second possible largest, investment from the group party, which represents Airtel as a normal company, which everybody of you are aware of possibly, and you're using. We're here to actually create India's one of the best startups in the fintech space, especially around payments. I'm happy to participate to really learn as well as give my views about the interaction that we'll have. Really excited about it.
Fantastic, Prasad. Thank you so much.
So I currently look after digital payment initiatives. Along with that, I also look after what we call as a in-app commerce marketplace within the bank. So we are building a very, very integrated approach of enabling our customers to do more than just banking from a digital stack. And I also look after what we call open banking and connected banking, where banking plays a service role as an API, and that helps us to get integrated in external ecosystems as well. So both looking at our own customer franchise as well as looking at external franchise integrations is what I look at with my team. And I've spent about 2 decades in the payment space and very excited to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Let's jump into our discussion. My first question is this. Is innovation in the payment space speeding up or slowing down or continuing at the same pace? And how is innovation qualitatively different from the kind of innovations you've seen in the past 2, 3, 4 years?
So, interesting question. I think if I were to answer it with maybe 4 or 5 thoughts from my side,
okay.
The pace of innovation may be the same, but 5 observations that I have. One is the number of areas in which we earlier were innovating has definitely increased. So earlier there may have been one battleground where you're looking at, which is on the consumer side or maybe on the corporate side. But now everywhere you look when it comes to payments, it's a new battlefield. And I think that kind of keeps all of us on our toes, and none of us can breathe easy when it comes to payments. You have to be at the cutting edge or you're nowhere. Number two is certain innovations which are around payment features for consumers are almost like a no-brainer or mandatory, essential. If you're not present, your customers will just move to another platform. So part of this innovation is more like a given. The third is certain innovations around new payment stacks are also inevitable. So if tomorrow NPCI launches a new platform of sorts, you cannot make it an optional participation. You have to be there. The fourth is certain partnerships, like I said, as part of what we do when we do payments as a service or banking as a service, it's all about the first mover advantage. So when it comes to working with certain strategic fintechs and partnerships, you need to be ready with your APIs, you need to be ready with your ability to integrate and partner with these companies. Or again, they end up working with other banks and partnerships out there. So that becomes yet another, like I said, battlefield. And last but not the least, you have certain innovations which can be built in isolation, which you can do within the bank with APIs and microservices, on top of them. And certain innovations you have to co-create with partners and jointly go to market. So I think we are looking at innovations blossoming in the BFSI space on both these fronts as we speak.
Right. Very interesting.
I would rather pick up three things to add on to what I heard from my colleague Bertram. I believe that there is definitely excitement on consumer space. A lot of innovation on it. But it will be good to see innovation space on payments around B2B, and second space is around rural sector. Just to give you, since we all come from a telco, we get statistics to our, immediate to our mind. Even today, if you look at, I think we are still not cracked the code of Bharat. We might have cracked the code of India. So we need to, if the next phase of UPI growth needs to be done, we need to crack the code with feature phones, for example, right? So there is B2B payment space as well as, the rural space, if I really put it, needs more attention, more innovation. So there's a lot of work to be done. The second one that I want to add is that this space does not belong to BFSI only anymore. This belongs to anybody, right? So it will be possibly wrong to say that BFSI people understand payments. It might be some other big tech who understands it better than us, right? So, so to watch in a manner that you have to defend and actually acquire, both needs to be at that category. Having said that, you also have to be on the right side of the policymakers. So it's a very beautiful book to read, but I don't know the chapters inside what's coming soon. So that's the beauty about it. That's the way I personally feel where we are pleased. And there's a lot to do because every 2 years there's a new winner. Its statistics proves that. So you never know. There is no obligation by consumer to really stick to it.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I mirror the Prasad's thoughts that yes, the innovation is blossoming, and feature phone is something which is really probably make a lot of difference, will bring a lot of change in the market. Having said this, the niche population, which is like earning around 20 to 30,000 rupees, are still using all those small feature phones, and it will be interesting to see how those untapped digital population will come into more of a financial inclusion or digital payments and adopt it. So, as Prasad said, yes, it's good to read, but the chapter is coming on. Let's see. Let's wait and watch.
I would just like to say that we looking at it from a consumer side of things, right? One of the key drivers that we have seen post-pandemic has been the shift in the consumer payment behavior, right? It is now more than ever that consumers are moving towards contactless. They've become more experimental. That is basically fueling all this payment innovation. They want to embrace new technology, new modes of payment. Interestingly, we do this prime time for real time report every year since past 2 years. And in this year's data, what we have seen is specifically for India, in 2021, the real time payments comprises around 31% of the total transactions so far, and versus 16% in 2020. So we see some growth there. If you look at electronic payments outside of real-time payments, it's actually dipped from 23% last year to around 11% this year. And there's a similar decline in paper-based transactions, right? So we've seen a dip of around 4-5% as compared to 2020. So there's this tremendous shift in the consumer payment behavior that's also fueling this payment innovation, and that's actually leading to a lot of innovation happening in this space.
Great, thanks, Soumya. So we all know that customer experience for payments is crucial for customer delight, for customer retention. But which parts of customer experience, whether it's an embedded payment or an explicit payment, are under the control of financial organizations like you? And to what extent are you dependent on technology companies, ACI or someone else, or anyone else? How much can you really innovate?
Yeah, so I think, look, obviously it's in 1+1 game. We need, partners like ACI, for example. I mean, we need technology partners to really come in. Finally, we have, the way I look at it is that, personally, I believe that we are a fintech and we have a banking license, and we have a big tech.
Okay.
That's the way to look at it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, second is, one of the important things that we are realizing today is, look, it's great to have great digital payment experience, 1 click, 2 click, whatever it takes. To my mind, more than, depending on each other to ensure that happens in quick time or real time, did it happen real time safely? Is safety the parameter now coming in, right? Because fundamentally it is great to know, but the amount of frauds that everybody is aware of on UPI side is humongous, right? So we need to really check. It's like is the car going at speed the enjoy, or is it the car going at the right speed with the right parameters, the joy? I believe there is a chapter coming soon around pay with caution versus pay with speed. Hence, probably it has to be regulatory side done a little better. We have to work towards responsible and so on and so forth. And the last one I would say, Soumya, just to kind of trigger your thought, I just give you some statistics because we are watching it from the telco side, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that there is a cash that has gone up in the market in the last 2 years because we are India's largest micro cash collection company. Literally every NBFC MFI uses our network because we are one of the largest. We have 5 lakh points of presence. Customers walk in to pay EMI, they pay in cash. So reality is it is digitally in, but it is out in 10 minutes. So it is possibly a layer that we are enjoying for 10 minutes, nothing more than that. So we need to find the fundamental thing to be corrected. Can it be digitally in and digitally stay and digitally go out? I don't think digitally stay and digitally go out has happened. We may be obviously be happy about what we are doing because we are obviously possibly arguably the best country in terms of adopting digital, be it UPI, be it all of us are trying. But I think the true sense is we are sending the kid to the school. Is the kid studying there or not? We don't know. So therefore they come out of the school quickly, right? It's like that. So we need to second phase, third phase, seal it to say, I got you in digitally. Are you digitally behaving or not? And that is something which I think all of us carry the responsibility to make it happen. Otherwise, cash is still the king. 86% of India today is cash economy running. It is higher than 84% before demonetization. I'll give you the statistics of that nature.
So essentially what you're saying is it's not just the transactional customer experience, but an overall customer experience that continues to remain digital as far as possible. Yeah, that's interesting.
I'd just like to add a view from a digital bank perspective. While I know what Prasad is referring to is a lot of assisted commerce and a lot of assisted, transactions. When it comes to a pure play digital kind of an experience on an app, and the question you asked is, can banks really innovate independent of underlying technology providers like ACI and so on? Yes, the answer is definitely a yes. If the bank is architected in a way where you get a host of the microservices from these downstream platforms, like your payment switches, your network interfaces, and your core banking systems. And you are now free to build user journeys on top of that. So I think a very interesting approach that we have taken and we have seen working out successfully is where we've built a lot of journeys on top of these APIs without needing to go every single vendor in the chain. It's been working with a few providers, both internal, external, to build those journeys and deliver a good experience. We have also found simple innovations like what we recently launched, and a few banks have mirrored this with pay of contact, sending number to a mobile number on top of the UPI rail, has caught on like wildfire. And I think the simplicity of this journey was always there. It's just that nobody really visualized it or envisaged it till it became a necessity. So some of these innovations are all around us. It's imperative for us to spot them and execute quickly.
Yes, that's true. Thanks, Bert. How are IT companies like yours, or how is ACI itself facilitating better CX apart from just facilitating a better transaction itself?
Yeah, I think like Bertram said, payments are now embedded in our everyday lives, whether it's online shopping, bill payment, social media interaction. Consumer payment is the experience is now basically a differentiator in the payment industry, and banks and financial institutions are striving really hard to augment their end consumer and merchant experience. So companies like ACI act as a technology enabler here. We are supporting our customers who are banks, who are financial intermediaries, who like regulators, central schemes, to basically provide these new payment experiences, new payment services to their end users, who could be anybody. They could be consumers, merchants, billers, corporates. So I think, be it ACI, we've actually moved away from being only a payment software company to offering end-to-end payment solutions that includes value-added services, digital overlays. We try to support our customers with a suite of back office capabilities that basically helps our customers to maximize the value they're delivering to the end consumers, right? And we're supporting our customers in their payment modernization journey, to be very honest. Helping them with connecting to all the live real-time payment schemes, whether it's the global adoption towards ISO 20022 standards. We are basically helping them in their payment modernization journey. Bertram touched upon APIs. So I think all banks are looking at an API first strategy, and we are helping them with that as well. So at the end of the day, it's like we want to make the latest payment technology available to the BFSI sector so that they can continue to innovate and bring in diverse set of use cases for the end consumers. That's what I.
So in a sense, what I understand you're saying is that the more you simplify the technology, more the bankers and BFSI companies can innovate and make it better for their customers and partners and all those other stakeholders. Great. So Prasanna, the last question we were discussing is customer experience, and how much of that improvement comes from the organization within, and how much of that comes from IT partners?
Yeah, I think before answering that, what is that happened or happening, Manoj, since last 20 years? A lot of technologies came into life, right? Mobility and typically smartphones, and there are backend other technologies which are fueling this whole adoption. Primarily, five different things. First of all, how banks are partnering with the tech companies or tech stacks is very, very important. How government is pushing digital agenda at a country level, like we have seen in India with digital melas or adoption of NPI specific innovations, which has really helped. Coming in right technology and right time, for example, data fueling, which has happened with the Geo movement. And I think it's like a commodity people use data. Most of the innovations have happened in the industry or on the front side. What is that outlook or experience or touch and feel or some of sound payments or some voice payments, contactless cards, contact payments, so on. But in the back end, it's the same process. In the back end, we have reconciliation, settlements, all those factors which are fueling your merchant payment. Today, UPI is free, no incentive for the bank, right? So coming back, while we are involved in a lot of innovations on the front side for a customer experience, customer experience will go to the next level if we really come up some breakthrough technologies or a path breaking technologies, right? Then only it will. Then I can say that customer experience is really wow. Today, customer experience is something which is visible that moment, right? But there are different set of customers apart from retail customers. Like you have wholesale customers, corporate customers, right? Other banks are customers for one bank. cross-border
Yes.
payment, different set of things, right? While we have done a lot of innovations on retail payments, but there are many areas where payment innovations to be happen as a customer experience. And
Okay,
maybe
that's great.
maybe in the future we have new technologies coming in, right? 5G or IoTs, the different ball game altogether. And there are a lot of parallel innovations are happening on central bank digital currency, crypto.
Hmm.
It will be a different wave is coming up, like companies operating without regulations, so-called DeFi's, right? Or
Yes.
companies are operating with regulations, helping banks, challenger banks, or some so-called neo banks and so on. So we are in amalgamation of so many things, and
Yes.
everywhere customer is a driving need, right? But at the same time, while we enter in some new era like so-called autonomous era, we need to think through: are we really improved in the back end, right? As a process,
Okay.
or there is too much of operational work in the back end on the current payment ecosystems, right? And while we do this, there is another parallel trade is coming, like fraud risk or authentication mechanisms
Yes.
or multi-factor authentications. Are these hindering overall customer experience, right? Or maybe I'll be so happy as a customer, being a banker or being innovator, I can say that as a customer, I really don't want to get into OTP kind of a situation, right? There has to be OTP which is a flawless or a invisible OTP. Let it be visible or let it be biometric, right? So in a nutshell, customer demand, what all technologies we are using as a bank, what all technology partners we are engaging, and how government is driving. So overall things is helping for a customer experience.
Thank you, Prasanna. Very good points, definitely. And we'll come back to them. Reshma, you are a fintech. You represent a fintech. So fin and tech is understandable, but where does CX, customer experience, fit in? How much of a priority is it for fintech companies these days? Or can they get away by being mostly fin and tech?
It's a very tricky spot for fintechs, if you ask me. So fintechs run for whom? The services which are actually extended to the merchants, right? Fintechs don't have their own transactions which they process for their own self. Uh, I'm not talking about the wallet side, because wallet has their own customers, and over there, there is the need to continuous work towards the customer experience and UI UX.
Correct.
Talking from the
Customers, yes.
aggregator community, right? So talking from an aggregator community will always have the merchants who are front facing and their transaction is being processed. Now, merchant is always focusing on the UI UX, and the expectation from the aggregator is
Hmm.
to support that. So it's very sweet spot for aggregators, because they have to do their own business, they have to build their own backend, they have to maintain their own backend, and along with that, they have to ensure that they are supporting their merchants to continuously evolve in terms of the UI UX part.
Hmm.
So it's a mix
Okay.
on which aggregator community works. From the wallet side, where the PPI are directly front-ending their own users. Over there, by default, it is a requirement of improving UI UX all the time to ensure that the stickiness is there for the user, because the user once get used to of your ease of payment, he will always come back, because that is more or less, it's just feed in the mind of the user that okay, this is very easy, 1 2 3 click, I'm done. And that is what
Yeah.
user is looking for, that is what always I am looking for.
Is the innovation going to come more and more from existing players, or do we really see outsiders coming into the ecosystem with their innovations? So, to put it another way, are the existing payment players innovating and competing fast enough, or are there white spaces for others to come in?
You know, the background of our company is a big tech company called Telco, which is really coming in the 5G space. I can fairly tell you that there is a reason why telcos have come into the space of payments. Fundamentally because we believe that when you have not control on the phone, but we have been actually a part of the phone, you can do a lot many things, and that's why today possibly India being one of the most innovated countries on the payment side of it, Samsung Pays and Apple Pays are not going to just sit down and watch. They will put their hand in, right? There is definitely innovation coming in NPCI side. I can tell you we are engaged in few conversations about, feature phones, for example. On the extreme side,
Okay.
what can 4G, 5G bring onto the table? There is innovation happening around, your car becomes a fintech car, for example. So it's going to be a lot many. So the car manufacturers are also thinking about how payments can be a part of their car. There are phone companies who are thinking about how the phone can be a payment instrument. So I personally believe it's going to be the next round, and it will be difficult for banks to really hold on to it, because
Okay.
look the size in which it operates. I mean, I can give you our statistics. For example, we just picked up a license in Nigeria, and we replicated the payment bank license exactly ditto by advising the government on that you should have it, and we picked up the license. The reason why we are doing it is that there are certain innovations which are happening good, but it is still to crack the bigger piece. People who are peripheral do have a smartphone. For example, 35 to 40 crore people in this country have smartphone. Only 15 or 20 crore people do payments. There is still 50% of smartphone users who do not do payments. Then there is another 50% which is feature phone and do not at all get into it, right? So the market is also equally big. So I would say, Manoj, it is great to have other players to come in, because the space needs to be not to attack each other, but to actually horizontally score in a manner that there is space for everyone, right? So I would say there will be a lot of big tech companies intervening into the ecosystem. And with 5G coming in, as Prasanna was saying, it is possibly another chapter which is coming soon from a lot of players. And we believe that we are one of the players to make it in there.
Is there are regulators comfortable with car companies and watch companies, maybe shoe companies also coming in as some kind of part of the payment ecosystem? What is generally the feeling? Not one specific regulator, but overall.
Yeah. So, I heard about Vikram talking about is take FASTag. It's not a payment instrument, right? But in our car, it deducts. Now, to me, one of the examples was FASTag is actually the Aadhaar of the car, and it can be the only media to make the payments. So tomorrow, IHMCL can come and say, look, the only way you can handle this car is to handle through this particular, and suddenly it's not the card, it is the FASTag. And there is IoT devices which are coming in, which will anyway trigger payments before even the bank comes to know about it. Because they will sit with the information higher, better than others. There are a lot of big tech companies who have data which can proactively, directionally say ki he's supposed to do the following and let me trigger that payment. Okay. So it's going to be, payments come at the end. Payments will possibly come during the decision, not after the decision. Now that is a very different thing coming in, right? But I would always say there are three markets. I will always put it. One is the Bharat. We need to go basics. Second is the big techs will definitely go massive, go aggressive, start to probably challenge the banking ecosystem, or for the matter. And the third one is how do bankers or fintechs like us really respond to that opportunity? I mean, these are three to really look at.
Interesting. But I think you were trying to say something on this.
No, I wasn't, but I will be happy to chip in. I think it's a very interesting time. You said, your question was who will innovate, the existing players or will there be new players? I think there is no clear answer there, because one is the existing players have to innovate to stay relevant. The new players have to obviously find their niche and find a market space and find a way to monetize, what they've invested in. So it is going to be disruption from all sides. I think what's going to be interesting to watch and monitor is who's going to win the large market shares and who's going to find good monetization strategies. So traditional players will obviously have their core competence, like banks and financial institutions will have the customer franchise to monetize or the SME franchise to monetize. Payment players will try to operate on switch companies like ACI will either have a technology-based model, which is either a license or a per transaction model. And there are different models out there in the market for different kinds of entities, but it's not limiting in any way, is what I'm trying to get at. I think everyone needs to kind of do their own bit when it comes to innovation. And the market is really huge. So you said about white spaces, and I completely agree. Today, what we see is only the tip of the iceberg, in my view, with UPI. And what feature phone payments like Prasad is very passionate about, I can see that. and even from my past experience with Vodafone M-Pesa, I can tell you that there's a huge amount of untapped potential in the bottom of the pyramid, both from a payments as well as from an e-commerce consumption perspective. So the moment you get them on the payment rails, you can also start getting them to pay for goods using the digital payment rails, which today is not possible. So it's just the starting of something much bigger.
Prasanna, if I may address one follow-on question to this to you. Do you see more of competition or more of collaboration between the newcomers and the existing stakeholders?
It's a very good question. It has a very sophisticated answer by saying it is a collaboration, right? Without collaboration, will not survive and so on. But at the end of the day, it's a competition which drives one bank with another bank, right? Or which one it drives a fintech with another fintech. But I think on a longer term, it's going to be an ecosystem play, right? While everybody is saying it, everybody will be part of that ecosystem. Gone were those days. I was having a customer with the X bank and we were providing services to them. I think next 4 or 5 years, most of the banking or experience will go on marketplaces, right? Marketplace bank or banking every day, right? Wherever I am there, the banking has to happen everywhere. Let it be from bank A, bank B. As a customer, or I would say the entity who has a huge number of data, right? Those entities will have a lot of opportunity to make more business, right? So let it be a big tech company or a larger bank or a ecosystem, but it's a collaboration game. Finally, why? Because today's banking is a unidirectional banking, or maybe tomorrow it becomes bidirectional with API banking or AI. But customer is not going to step up in a bank. He's going to step up with some non-banking app to provide to get a banking services, so-called some of those super apps, right? We see. So today, I think most of the bank has mobile banking app. Tomorrow, most of the bank will be part of a super app, right? That's maybe some open banking and so on.
Okay.
Now here is the catch. What is the catch? Is that while we as a bank are innovating with the partners, fintech, SCIs of the world and so on, there is a parallel economic which is coming up, right? Which is not much regulated and looking for a support to please regulate me so that I'll provide a much more needed innovation, right? Say example, Facebook tried with Libra. Imagine, right? 2.5 or 1/4 population of the world was supposed to go on a Libra to be on that ecosystem, and it has that power. That whole technology game is a power. DeFi companies, or you talk about crypto, right? So we may say it's not good, it's not regulated. That's why we look at them with some other angle, but they will drive a lot of a better innovation in the banking and non-banking if they are regulated in the right direction.
Correct.
So I think never know, right? That will be a disruptive model, I must say, because customer always look at a better customer experience, right? All of a sudden we have seen Google Pay coming in, riding on railroads of UP and banks, right? But finally, governments are going to be there forever. Government regulated RBIs, central banks are going to be there forever. Innovations like CBDCs will drive a lot of things in the mainstream next 2 to 3 years, right? That will be exciting space, Manoj, to see how RBI going to come up with its own CBDC and collaboration of this CBDC with other countries' CBDC. Just imagine within country UPI, outside of country we'll do with some different kind of a unified payment ecosystem, right? So let's see. These are some of those.
Yeah.
So it will be driven by collaboration itself, but competition has to be there so that we bring a lot of innovation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks for that clarity. Discussions is ACI having, or what kind of pilots or projects is it doing with these big techs? What kind of discussions is it doing with governments? How is it expanding itself to play a role in the coming opportunities, the bigger landscape that is coming?
Yeah, thanks, Manoj. So, like I already said, players like ACI are technology enablers in the payment ecosystem. So we are acting as a trusted consultant to our customers, who are basically banks and financial institutions, not just restricting to financial institutions, but to regulators and central banks, in enabling them with new payment technology, new payment types, and our major goal is to sort of reduce the payment complexities to a large extent, while offering all these new services to them, so that they can drive the end user experience accordingly. And specifically, since there's a lot of conversation around the non-banking players, so I would say that our role here is to basically support a large library of APIs, right, which are easily configurable, easily integrable APIs that sort of streamline the integration process for the non-bank financial institutions, fintechs, big techs. And at the same time, what it does is it helps in increasing their digital touchpoints while opening up new streams of revenue for them. So I think that's the sort of collaboration we are doing. And having been in the payment industry for over 4 decades now, we sort of bring in the global expertise when it comes to real-time payments. We support around 18 real-time payment schemes, 6 central bank infrastructures globally, and we are helping banks, fintechs, regulators, central schemes in basically either setting up their real-time payment systems, or if they already have a system in place, we're helping them upgrade those systems. So that they can better position themselves in the market and augment their end consumer experience. So we are a technology enabler. We are completely collaborating with our customers and bringing them the latest payment technology.
And these 18 schemes that you talked about, do you see a lot of similarity emerging as they progress technologically and functionally, or do you see some divergence also?
No, absolutely. I think UPI has sort of demonstrated a successful example worldwide, and a lot of the schemes that we are seeing today are trying to replicate the UPI model. So it might not be as evolved as UPI, but it's on the similar lines, and the ecosystem and the diversity in the ecosystem is similar in across markets, and that's what we've seen in the other countries where we operate.
Okay, that's good. Would any of you like to ask each other something based on all that we have discussed?
The very important part of the innovation actually lies on what customer needs. And that is what we did not touch upon, is what I feel. When we say this, look at how cluttering it is for the customer. He has to have a FASTag, so he has to top up the FASTag account. Then there's the UPI. So if he wants to do P2P payments or P2M payments, he can probably use either his card or UPI, right? There are wallets where the customer has to top up and use it on as a super app or on those lines. I feel from the innovation side, if someone can think that there has to be one instrument only and that is their mobile, there are no other instruments required for the user. There is no need to carry anything else, and that makes more of life easy for the user who wants to get into this digital payment, but he is a little confused. He doesn't know what to do. And say, for example, my father, he is like 70 plus, right? It's very difficult for him that, okay, I have to top up my FASTag. Okay, this is UPI. Okay, this is wallet. Okay, this is card. Okay, I don't want to use card. I keep reading so many fraud happening and all that, right? So I guess more of what customer needs, that is where the innovation should move.
So one large part of it obviously is simplifying it for the customer based on the example that you have given. And as more products, interfaces, whatever keep arising, as people have wider and wider financial, as customers have wider and wider financial footprints or partnerships with different financial organizations. Maybe they'll have accounts, 4 different accounts in 4 different banks and 3 insurance companies and 2 fintechs and whatnot. I think it's going to get complicated for the customer as well. So Reshma, definitely you have hit the sweet spot about the invisible part of the CX. We normally talk about the visible part of the CX, the tangible part of the CX, but the invisible part is also becoming important.
Absolutely.
Bertram, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I'd like to bring in a slightly different angle to this conversation, and I like the way it's going. Today, a lot of the new open public digital infrastructures which have now been created, like AA, for example, the account aggregator framework, and OCEN, which is coming around the corner. I would like to get everyone's views, and I would like to share my views as well, saying that there is a huge opportunity for MSMEs and for last mile customers who are underserved when it comes to credit needs to actually be serviced on using some of these stacks. And I think it's still very early days. You still have a very few number of participants in terms of data sharing and data consumption. But as this opportunity unfolds, I think there is a lot which can really further transform the way payments happen. Because in my view, payments on a standalone basis, the way we have watched it grow, is now slowly going to also morph with new forms of credit, like your buy now, pay later, and so on.
Yes.
So payments is not just payments standalone anymore. I think it will slowly evolve and merge with credit. Would like to hear views from all of you on the panel as well.
Yes. BNPL is very much top of mind for so many people.
No, I think I echo that. I do agree that there are account aggregator ecosystems. There is OK Network coming. Fundamentally, I think it's about how one should participate, and one should participate because that obviously gives scale, transparency, accessibility, and so on and so forth, for sure. The way I would look at it is there are various kinds of market in our country. One is obviously all of us who are on this call, the people who are digitally used to it and now using it as a part of our life, right? Then there is this, as I told, about tentativeness around the basics. And the last one is people who have never heard this word called banking. What possibly we get carried away is that what you and I see what's happening in the urban space. What some of us possibly may not be able to see is what is the need of the true, Bharat space. And why I'm always preaching on that. I just want to give you some statistics. While I know Ken and everything, we have buy now, pay later will all excite and do things, which is why credit, in fact, surpassed debits in last month, reports that came in. People have taken more credit in the market, right? Okay. So it's great, right? But, look at it this way, that today, the micro ATM AEPS ecosystem seems to be prolifying more than the ATMs. The AEPS transactions are higher than the normal ATM transactions of all banks put together. This is withdrawal. If you convert to deposits, the amount of deposit that can be possible. So Aadhaar enabled services will be one big trail apart from UPI. UPI is possibly digitally done. Aadhaar will be the first digital behavior of the person because fingerprints, they try to take the trust out of the system, saying, yeah, if I'm putting my finger, I'm getting my money. That means there's something right with me happening, right? How do we really? So, the way I look at it is there an ACI worldwide for rural? Is there a MobiKwik for rural? I mean, unless those kind of events do not happen, trust me, we take our experience of handling smartphone and feature phone. We have turned this table 20, 30 times in the last 20 years, right? People who do not want to come into smartphone market will not come to the smartphone market unless, even if you give it free, they are not going to come because there is always this mistrust factor. So first thing is banking has to come with a lot of trust. कि आपने पैसा डाला और मेरा पैसा ठीक जगह पे है and मैं पैसा निकालूंगा तो ठीक निकालूंगा. I mean, I think I would go to saying, where is the roti, kapda, makan before we get into the rest of it? Okay. I think there has to be a technology around roti, kapda, makan. Then there is to obviously the technology that we're talking about 5 stars, and this is very huge market. Not to just, and there's a lot of opportunity, right? Today, people may not know we are opening almost 10 lakh bank accounts a month, I mean, that's the kind of size of opportunity, right? So there may be 5 more banks needed to open 10 lakh bank accounts there. The reality is that Jan Dhan has never got it live. It is just accounts. It does not have money. So I think we have to fundamentally look at is where is the need? And I would always request that, look, while we are very blessed with the kind of technology that all of us do, is India is very blessed with, so many innovations happening. We need to look at the unbanked population in a much deeper way, and can we transform the country faster by using disruptive technology? Okay. And that is something I still believe is yet to hit the nail. If that can be done, I think we have done our jobs being in the banking industry, saying, I did it for urban, I did it for rural.
Right. That makes sense. So that's one way, like Prasad, you said, to expand the rural ecosystem using innovation and technology to make it more meaningful rather than bring a copy-paste urban ecosystem into the rural areas. Prasanna, maybe you can share some thoughts on innovations in these kind of markets in Bharat and rural markets, that whether it's technology based or ecosystem based.
Yeah, I think it has emerged heavily. I think there is a project like BharatNet project, wherein we'll have to provide internet services to almost all 6 lakhs of these villages everywhere.
Mhm.
That's picking up. Other thing is like, although we always say that feature phones are more, but feature phones are decreasing. The way we have seen the mathematics of smartphones, how number is increasing, people have one or two smartphones always, and it's a and India economy is growing, smartphones are reaching to the villages also, right? But there is still challenge, so-called Bharat, right? There is a lot of push with the digitization or internet adoption everywhere. Now coming back, we have seen some of those digital villages, right? Who operate only on digital payment. Tried, right? They tried and they had their own challenges, right? And certainly tomorrow, technically, if you have to build a digital payments village, it is very much possible, right? What is needed is all about, apart from technology, rather proper digital education to these villagers, and which is also happening through government push like some digital mela. There are a lot of CSI kind of entities whose KR is to provide digital education to these companies.
Mhm.
So, like, while we looking at this now, I think this is what I said. For example, Pangrain, right, in the villages, they provide wheat, and this whole transaction happens on a RuPay card, right? Since 2013, 14, on NPCI with many banks acting as acquiring banks, and many banks are acting as a issuance bank for the farmers. So I think these kind of initiatives, if comes on a time to Indian ecosystem, I think that will drive lot of innovations in my view. Say starting 2011, we have seen BC model, right, which was a mandate for many PSU banks to go physically to those villages, and those villages were allocated to these banks. For example,
Yes.
IDBI Bank, PNB Bank, and this BC model was quite okay, right? Although it has an operational angle, that is why it was not so successful. By the time we were in the BC model, I think our friends spoken about AEPS and micro ATM. That's another opportunity goes on, right? So, but I heavily looking at India is like a country we have a more than 10 different times to do the payments, right? UPI, AEPS, MBPS, RTGS, NEFT, net banking, and many more ecosystems, right? So finally, coming down to your question, right? How do we really drive the digital adoption at the villages? So I think smart BC model certainly gonna help, supported by very good technology, right? The smartphone versus feature phone will be always equation for next 10 years. I don't think so. After 10 years, anybody will be on a feature phone, right? Or maybe after five,
Okay,
6
there may
years.
not be a feature phone.
So
Yes.
are we going to innovate or innovation to do for next 5, 6 years? No, I think we'll have to look at more than that. I think heavily when 5G will reach out of these villages, no, I think it will be very, very easy, right?
Okay.
Payment, apart from payment, experience as a service fee everywhere. Like Bert was talking about account aggregator or OKN, right? So likewise, like our RBI is going to come up with a public credit registry, right? Lot of consolidated ecosystems will come in. Like we have seen BBPS, UPI, account aggregator will be the next one, OKN, and people will learn out of it. People in the sense banks and more collaboration will happen. There will be bank as a platform. Say ACI today is a switch provider. I'll be surprised if the next 4 or 5 years they don't come up with a bank as a platform.
Okay.
It should be up and running, as somebody said, right? It should be only for villages. It should be only for a challenger bank. One click bank, immediately available on a cloud, right? Is it possible? Technically, it's possible. Why are you not innovating? Because we are in a race of traditional banking, ongoing operation banking, and there are other companies coming up with a fascinating bank like fintechs and this. I think I think time is very beautiful, Manoj. I think once again I'll reiterate around power of CBDC. What UPI did last 4 years, CBDC will do it for everyone.
Okay.
Right? Not for one country, but many more countries. Not for one city or a mega city or a metro city, but even for villages. Because
That's
on
great.
CBDC, on a retail side, you can have an account, you can have a retail CBDC based upon your token or account.
Mhm.
So token means it is a digital identity. So based upon any of those things, we can always look at how it will be driven, right? So I think it's a matter of who is going to drive first. I think at least we keep on hearing, right? By next year, some POC pilots will be coming up. I think more and more tech service providers like Accenture is there or R3 are there. they will be part of these new ecosystems. I think it will be a challenge for existing tech service provider. How do we really compete, or how do we really reach there? Unless they do some kind of a research, R&D, in benefit of a customer. I think these are all some remarks. But in a
Okay,
nutshell,
okay.
technology is there. People are not like a 10-year-old, right? Before 2008, 2009, when smartphone came in our life, it was a luxury, right, to have an Android phone. Today, it's a very much possible, right? There is low-level Android phone comes into 2,000, 3,000 rupees, and it will go more and more cheaper, right?
Correct.
We just have to see how. I think still there is a catch-hold game for feature phones. There are a lot of innovations which NPCI is driving with this new RBI's hackathon, Harbinger.
The whole digital system, ecosystem has to evolve in Bharat. And then financial services and payments and credit, everything can ride that. So let's take it ahead. I had one small query for Prasad. We all have our individual phones. Even our kids have their individual phones. But in rural India, phones are a shared device. As a telecom company, do you see that as a challenge or an opportunity for extending financial services and payments?
Look, I think by the time we really get into deeper financial services proliferation beyond, let's say, just a basic savings bank account or an account for that matter, and I would add wallet to it. Is there a rural wallet company? Might be, just to begin with, right? Wallet is the first test of financial services, right? And great job done by MobiKwik. I mean, till that is happening, see, look, for example, I was in Bihar and they were talking about आपकी माइनर लड़की के पास बैंक अकाउंट है तो हम उसका स्टडीज के लिए हम उनको फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट निकालना. Therefore, it's about minor accounts to begin with, right? So phone is not necessarily only a necessity. I think bigger penetration is not the phone. The bigger penetration has to be, does he or she have a basic account or a wallet where the money can land up to begin with? पहले पैसे तो मिले. I mean, therefore, I would say there are a lot of innovations. For example, the e-voucher services or e-rupee services that NPCI has launched is to digitize, public, services in terms of DBTs and all, right? Can there be, scan and pay modeling around coming, because innovation can happen? I can only tell you one thing as a snippet, that there is SIM-based solutions coming on banking soon. So it's going to take away the very need of a debit card. It might. You don't need that card. Because the reality is that iMedia or anybody who's supplying the chip to the debit credit card is also the supplier to the SIM. So it's a common supplier.
It's a dematerialization of the SIM.
So you just don't know. As you take the phone, you have taken the bank. And you just click to say, choose your network, choose your bank. The authentication, because it is starting your retina access, because there is a camera, and you are done. You don't need the person. So you just don't know what's coming soon. So therefore, you just walk into a shop, pick up the phone, right? Make your first move, and it auto debits your existing account, and you're through. You're not talking to anybody. That's a possibility. Yeah. So I'm saying
things are no longer science fiction.
So I'm saying, today, that's why I said, what is the next chapter is anybody's guess. I personally believe it may not be necessarily banks will rule the fintech or the financial world. It can be anyone who has tech as the first platform. Tech, right?
Tech is
but language understood by the mass market. Not the 20 crore people who use the same debit card, credit card, UPI. We all use this facility. The 20 crore to the next 60 crores. If we can crack that code by using tech, I think we have done it for the country. And I will always stay focused on that, because end of the day, massification of services around this by using disruptive, simplified access and joy of, somebody told me the best payments experience is not to pay. Right. So that's the way people look at it. Yeah, I'm thinking about payment and payment happens. If I'm thinking of payment happens, right? Is there a possibility? The answer is yes.
Interesting. So we are past 5. Let's have the closing remarks from anyone who wishes to make.
Yeah. So Manoj, maybe I'll just respond to the one Q&A query that we received, and I'll just give my closing thoughts on this as well. The query is, in order to avoid operational issues like digital payment transaction failure, what advice would you give to banks, merchants to minimize failures and improve experience? So I think this is something which a lot of us take for granted, but it's very interesting to see that the one question that we got is something which we consider as hygiene in a payments experience. And while we speak about such scale and exponential growth of digital payments and so many new innovations, I think there are still a lot of gaps in the ecosystem on getting payments right and making them invisible, like Prasad said. Doing a payment, the best way to do it is not to realize you've done it. But I think we have a lot of new features, especially on the UPI rails, which are coming up in the next couple of months. The entire bank ecosystem is moving on what we call a unified dispute resolution framework that will allow customers to query for failed transactions and get the latest update, because there are a large number of failures today in the UPI ecosystem. And another closing thought from my side is two of the very interesting innovations that I would like you all to track. One is offline payments, which I feel today, a lot of payments, a majority of UPI payments today are below 200 rupees in value. Very small ticket, and they create a huge amount of load today on traditional banking infrastructure. And NPCI is working on a solution to solve for this by allowing for below 200 rupees to be approved without you having to go to your bank's core banking system. Now, while there is very early stage work happening on this, if this becomes a reality, it could mean that for every small offline transaction you do, even sub 50 rupees, which you sometimes hesitate to do with the digital payment method, could move completely online and frictionless. So when I say online, I mean through the phone. It doesn't necessarily need to go through a network. So I think that's one very interesting trend I would like everyone to follow. And the second one is, like Prasad also touched upon, the central bank digital currency and other uses for blockchain. I think blockchain as a technology is very underestimated. The hype cycle 3 to 4 years back from Gartner said that this is a very big hype in payments. It's not really going to see any commercial value coming out of it. But I think where we sit today, we see tremendous use cases built on top of blockchain. One of them being a cryptocurrency and a number of other commercial use cases, I think, in the next 3 to 4 years. So that's my closing thought.
Yeah, thank you for that response and for those closing comments.
Interesting times coming in terms of the CBDC, in terms of the feature phone, in terms of the other UPI initiatives and one tap payment and those new flashy events to make the payment. So look forward to all this together.
You're going to have another exciting 18 years ahead for sure.
I know. It has been interesting to see how we have embraced digital payments. So that's cool.
Right.
Yeah, I think from my side, looking at the ecosystem, the way it is moving, right? There are a lot of innovations are happening at a NPCI side or a banking side, right? But I think I will agree a lot with Bertram, right? The power of blockchain and typical payment use cases in the ecosystem, right? What so far my earlier comment, right? We have done a lot of innovations on the front side, but we forgotten, right? Why payment does fail in the back end, right? And why this reconciliation kind of a game is there with our lives in so many years. Blockchain comes and says that I will wipe out all those intermediaries. I will remove all those reconciliation settlements. I don't have to really question that why payment is going to fail. Payment will happen, either it won't happen. That's what CBDCs are riding on those existing railroads. And when India will come up with its own CBDC, I repeat, okay, whenever India will come up with their own CBDC, whole world will watch this will be the one of those best CBDC. Why? Because we are riding on one of those best digital identity ecosystems, so-called Aadhaar. We have a best of the state-through payment through UPI. And apart from that, we have different corporate or SME relevant account aggregator is coming up. There are lending or token architecture is going to come up. And we have a lot of tech companies who are experimenting already on blockchain and crypto, things like MasterCard, Visa, right? Even I will not surprise, I think Vajra kind of experiment which bank NPCI have done. I think it has to go to the next level. So while we keep on doing innovations in current banking, we need to look at how millennials, next generation, are looking at a banking. Right? So if you guys are, or if you and me as a banker won't make it happen, they will create their own ecosystem. Right? So
Mhm.
It's up to us. How do we catch hold of that game, or how do we wait and watch, or be part of the whole equation which is going to come up in the future. So for sure, marketplace banking is a future, right? And whoever as a tech service provider, if they are creating some platforms around that, or creating some standards, or adhering whatever government, RBI, NPCIs are coming up or participating in that journey, it will be very good thing. I think time is beautiful. I do agree with all of our speakers. Let's see. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Soumya, your closing remarks on front end, back end, anything?
Yes, I think what would be interesting to see in the coming years would be how what sort of opportunities can technology create for regulators of payment schemes like NPCI? And Bertram touched upon it with his thoughts on how the UPI platform is constantly evolving, coming up with new features. So it'll be really interesting to see how payment schemes sort of upgrade their systems, modernize their systems to better facilitate the ecosystem. And I think that would bring in a lot of comfort to the regulators, at the same time bring in a lot of payment efficiency, security efficiency, and operational efficiency in the system. So that is a bit that I'm really keen on watching out. Because if you look at UPI, we're expecting a version upgrade, and we see a lot of features coming in by the end of the year or early next year. So I want to see how the ecosystem sort of translates into all these features and drives consumer experience at the end of the day.
I think all of us are looking forward to the continuous upgradation of ecosystems.
Yeah.
Ecosystems definitely have a big impact. Great, thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. God bless
Thank
you.
you,
Have a good
everyone.
weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.